Hello everybody, welcome. I'm just stopping by to make a short video here and to talk about stress. I'm looking at my book here, A Brief Introduction to Stress Management. And stress management, what is it really? It's learning to place yourself into the hand of God. Because the things that are stressing you, well, yeah, you're reacting. If you're like 99% of people, you're way too reactive. You react to every little thing. But how did it begin? It began with some kind of a shock or trauma, some emotional seduction or emotional shock that took place when you were a little tiny child. And from then it just has gone on and gotten worse. But what I want you to understand is that the stress that stands behind all the other stresses is actually from a spiritual dimension. When you think about it, this morning, there was a lady, and she said this is so stressful because there's so many people around. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Why is it that people are always the stress? Have you ever noticed that? That's what it begins with, doesn't it? People. Now, why should it be that way? What is a person supposed to be like? We know what a person is supposed to be like. Calm, kind, happy, fun, lighthearted, and courageous, honorable, trustworthy. So if people were like that, what would be the stress? There wouldn't be any. But people are a stress, aren't they? Part of their stress is the fact that they overreact to everything, including anything you say. They overreact to it. They misinterpret it. They misread it. They judge it, see? But it's more than that. Why do people become mean, impatient, hateful, resentful, bitter, angry, cruel, teasing, confusing? Why would a beautiful, lighthearted, carefree, sweet person become mean and cruel and vicious and selfish and prideful and not want to admit they're wrong and do things to irritate and exasperate and confuse and hurt other people? Why? Obviously, they're not human. It's inhuman. I was also listening this morning to one of the old Art Bell programs. I don't know, many of you probably don't know who Art Bell was. He was a talk show host, and he was a really good interviewer. And he had some interesting people on his program. It was called Coast to Coast AM or something like that. Then it was taken over later by George Norrie, who's doing a great job. But Art Bell had a series of interviews with Father Malachi Martin, who was an exorcist and who wrote the book Hostage to the Devil. And so I was listening to the very first interview that Art Bell had with Malachi Martin. And of course, one of the major topics was exorcism. But during the course of the interview, Art Bell mentioned that he had seen the movie The Exorcist. And he said that it scared the heck out of him. He said, far more than aliens and all that kind of stuff. Do you remember the movie Alien? That one scared me. But then I got to thinking, why the movie Alien. You remember how the alien was this dark, hideous-looking thing? It was really scary. Whenever we generally when we portray in the movies or novels or something, some kind of alien, it's always really dark and awful looking. Inhuman, that's the word, inhuman. And what do these aliens mostly do? For the most part, they are vicious and cruel and mean and destructive. And they do really bad things, these aliens, in the movies, like in the Alien. And very, very smart, but in a cruel, calculating way. Well, I got to thinking. So let's put one and one together. Aliens are generally dark and hideous and mean and cruel and do awful things, but they're portrayed as really, really strange and scary looking. And then you have people who, have nice eyes and nice hair and a nice tone of voice, and they have nice skin and nice clothes and a nice car and a nice iPhone, but they do cruel, destructive, mean things, just like the aliens do. So the personality of the very strange, frightening alien in the movie is the same as the personality of the person who does cruel things, but they're usually confusing. They have two sides. What was it, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? They have two sides. One side of them is nice, and the other side is super mean, super confusing, super cruel. So you kind of wonder, is that an alien in there? Well, we do know that there are such things as demons. We know there is evil. And so could it be that evil has gotten into people? But sometimes they know, but they can't do anything about it. But for sure, they're being acted through. Haven't you ever said to yourself, what did I do that for? Why did I say that? You wish you could take back what you said. You wish you could take back what you did, but you can't take it back. Why? What came over me? What came over you? Well, what came over you was a recapitulation of a trance. And then somebody's will operated through you. Somebody's will from the past or something in the present operating through you. So now we get back to what I said in the very beginning. If you want to solve, here I wrote this little book. It's probably good that it's a little book, because the answer to your stress problems is to let God deal with everything. See, the real stresses of the world are way more clever than you are. And you'll lose. Look, you can't even speak up to your teacher's kid or to some authority or to your wife or your mother. You can't even speak up without your heart pounding. And you try to speak up to someone, you get tongue-tied. What does that mean? It means that in your past somebody pressured you and they made you upset, but you couldn't help it. You were only a little kid. But now whenever there's some authority present or somebody confusing or somebody mean or somebody that lacks understanding, you can see it and it makes you nervous. And before you know it, you can hardly function. You, the real you, can hardly. You get all tongue-tied and so on. But then what can happen? Then their will can operate through you. Then you end up saying yes and doing whatever they want you to do. They know that once they get you upset, they've got you. And in the past, it was always that way. So the people around you, the authorities around you, they know how to push your buttons and you get upset, and then their will operates through you. Well, this thing happens at various levels, but what I want you to see is that you want God's will operating through you. And not only that, but you want Him to take care of the stresses, Him to take care of your overreactions, and the fact that you don't know how to deal with these things. You want to place yourself in His hands so that He can take care of it. And the first thing that He's going to tell you is, all right, first of all, calm down. Take a mental step back and watch. How many times did Jesus say, watch? Watch. Observe. And then, if something comes to you, fine. If nothing comes to you, then there's nothing for you to do. Just watch. And whatever it is passes by. Then the next thing you would be told is, forgive your mom and dad. The world was too much for them. Your mom was angry at your dad. He didn't have the kind of love that she needed. She thought he would have it, but he didn't. He'd never found it. He wasn't a bad guy. He had some good qualities, but he just didn't have the kind of love that she needed, and so she resented him. Forgive everybody. Everybody's been abused, confused, and intimidated by subtle cruelty and meanness and confusion and deception everywhere. Some people get real good at watching for it and they spot it, but then they make the mistake of resenting it. They're resenting the person. See it, don't resent the person. And especially forgive your poor old mom and your dad. Let it go. They did the best they could. Maybe it wasn't good enough. Let it go. The past is the past. Forget it. And then, while you're at it, let go of your resentment toward everybody else. You can begin watching. Instead of watching for their mistake and saying, oh, and judging them, or misjudging them. Instead of watching for that, just go about your business and watch for your resentment. And when you see it rising, let it pass. Don't indulge it. See? So, I think I've said all I need to say. Put yourself in God's hands. In other words, and how do you do that? It's very simple. Just stop playing God. See? Stop judging people. Stop judging yourself. Stop resenting people. Stop trying to save yourself. Stop putting on an act for God or for anybody else. Just let your hair down. Do your work. Be a mom, be a dad. Get off your high horse. And stop being a world worrier, worrying about everything. Just do your whatever it is that is for you to do. And watch for resentment. Let it pass. And watch for upset. And when you see it coming, stand back and watch it. That's all. Then the next thing you would be told is get out of your thoughts. Learn to be in the present moment. Defocused. And very aware. There you are. You're watching, and you're aware of your hands. Your hands tingle, become a little bit warm. And watch. And then you're on your way to all the good. Don't try to make anything happen. Let it be a surprise. Oh, where did this wonderful blessing come from? Look, how did that wonderful thing happen? And how did, oh my God, this is great. Have you ever had a Christmas where you got so many presents? It was unbelievable. God wants to give you presents. And he already has. He gave you awareness, but you turned your back on it. He gave you your conscience, and he's still there. He's still knocking on the door. He's saying, hey, knock it off. Don't resent your mom. Don't resent your dad. Don't resent your husband. Don't resent your wife. Don't be impatient with your kids. And if you are, just see it. Don't excuse it. Don't deny it. Don't try to cover it up. Just see it. Whatever is. Just see it. And if you don't know, just say, I don't know. I don't know. They asked a country guy one time, they said, well, do you have any predictions for the coming year? He said, well, yeah. He said, things are either going to get better, or they're going to get worse, or they're going to stay about the same. So have that kind of an attitude. Just watch all the craziness. Don't let it get to you. Practice my little meditation, if you will. It's free. All it does is help you it helps you to start doing and reminds you to do kind of what I've just been talking about. And it's a little way of getting started. That's all.